wouldn't say the head of, but the face of many different conglomerates, and uh, she's come quite a far way, having started in the IT business and jumping straight over into award-winning actressdom. Wouldn't you say that's kind of like a pretty good picture of it?
Yes, well done. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Now, would you say that that's a pretty good indication of how drastic your life has changed?
It has, and you want to, I think, come closer. Oh, maybe you want to sit down?
Oh no, this is cool.
Oh, this is good. All right. So, my journey has been so incredible. From investment banking in Sydney to being a multimedia personality here in Hollywood. It's been a real journey, and it's been divinely guided the whole way. And I'm really honored to be on my path, living my authentic life and following my dreams and my life purpose. So I feel so blessed.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people have never done any IT. IT, for those who don't know, as far as I know, it's like dealing with gadgetry, computers, technology. Is that correct?
Well, IT is information technology. I was an investment banker, and then I moved to management consulting. But my undergraduate degree that I have is in information and communications technology, and I also have a degree in business marketing. And then I have an honors research degree in electronic marketing. So my speciality was, combining technology with business and marrying the two. And then of course I joined a bank, and then I moved into management consulting, which was quite different. And anyway, now I'm doing something really different. But it's a joy, every day is a new day. I work for myself. I make my own schedules. I travel when I want, where I want. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are going to try to figure out, how does a young lady come way from Australia and eventually wind up in Hollywood? Now, let me see if I can help start it off. My understanding is you started out as a student, then you were a bright student.
Yes.
So then you jumped into higher learning, but then you jumped into banking, and then you had this I guess, burning desire to stick your big toe into the waters of modeling and acting. So then you started studying, and if my history is correct, since you're from Australia, this might be one of the reasons why you met Rob Crowe. Is that correct?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Yes. No, very good. I was a very good student. I was 16 when I started university. I graduated at the age of 20 with 2 degrees.
Wow.
And a scholarship to study for a PhD, which I turned down because I wanted to work in the private sector. And after several years in the private sector, I knew that it wasn't my life purpose, so I became very spiritual at that time. I really was trying to find myself. And I realized that I wanted to be in entertainment and act and write and direct. And yes, at that same time, I also won a bunch of beauty pageants. I started modeling. I was doing commercials all over, and I was represented by Russell Crowe's first agent, actually.
Wow.
He's Australian agent at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a dream life. And then I won a scholarship to come to New York
Boom.
to study at this film academy. And then, as they say, life is
It took off.
history, yeah.
Now,
The rest is history, yeah.
Now, in between that, you started doing movies that took you over to Asia, though.
Yes, I've done Bollywood and Hollywood. I've shot in Australia. I've worked in Europe. I worked in Dubai, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So I've probably worked in 4 or 5 different continents. In TV, film, and commercials, and beauty campaigns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And fairly young to be doing all of that. So things just look. I'm such an open person, and my life has been really blessed because I expect miracles,
Mm-hmm.
and not only do I believe in them, I actually am expecting that they're going to happen to me every day, and they do. So I'm truly honored.
Very cool. Now, when you won those 5 awards that were given to you by Jackie Chan,
Yes.
which event was that, and which movies was those
It was
for?
3 awards, and it was at the Asia Pacific Film Festival. And I had gone there actually. I was a delegate and on the board of this incredible organization that had invited me for this film festival. And Jackie Chan was the guest of honor that evening.
Mm-hmm.
But I was representing an Indian movie that ended up winning all these amazing awards, and I was the face of that movie. Although I wasn't actually in the movie,
Okay.
but because I was representing that movie on behalf of it, and it won everything, and I was the only one present from that, dispensation. So I got, I was the star of the belle of the ball. I was the star of the show.
Yeah.
It's really quite a trip. So I know what it feels like to be very famous, because I was overnight. I was on TV, millions of people had seen me. This is in China, you can understand the scope of things. The next day I was on the front page of every newspaper. At the event there were hundreds of photographers from all around the world. They all wanted to interview me, and I did a photo shoot with all my awards, and it was a trip. I'll never forget it.
Now, what kind of guy is Jackie Chan?
The most humble, sweet,
Is he funny?
Gracious, I would say, person. Has a lot of humility. I think he came from nowhere and he really made it to the heights of success. His culture is very much with him. I think he had good upbringing. You can tell, good person. He's one of those people. When good things happen to him, you're happy.
Now, I guess a lot of people like me, it just popped in my head. Everyone knows Rush Hour 4 is coming up.
I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah. So it's like maybe you should, knock on his door and say, "Come on now, you've had 3 of them. We know each other. Look at my record."
Or maybe I should reach out and I should send him, because I had to take a lot of photos with him as well. So perhaps I can send our beautiful photos together to refresh his memory.
Plus, I'm
sure
going to
he
send this.
remembers me, yeah.
I'm going to send this to him over social media too.
Try that, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows how many more they're going to do?
I know. I'm surprised that they have a 4th.
Well, I'm just saying it because Jackie and Taylor, I think that's his name, Chris
Tucker.
Tucker, they were online doing like the 4 fingers, so a lot of people took that to mean
4, yeah.
So it's a trip how far that thing has gone. And
Well, I think this is the thing with Hollywood. I'm actually not a fan of this franchises and all that. I like really thought-provoking, deep, independent, or even commercial, but I like movies that are deep, that have a message, that are talking about an important topic. I'm not a big fan of comics and sci-fi and all that. It doesn't do it for me. However, I'm sure acting in one of those movies is probably a whole lot of fun.
probably a whole lot of fun, yeah, definitely. Speaking of, before we get a little bit more serious, because I know your whole portfolio is very, very diversified.
Yes.
Give us indication. I've written about you, and
Yes.
you've been on my TV show, but I want people to know how many different organizations you're the face of worldwide, from Dubai to
Wow.
different jewelry people.
Wonderful. Okay, so I have my own company called Omnia Entertainment.
Okay.
And that's my company, and it's an umbrella company for the various things that I do.
Okay.
I'm writing a book. I'm a public speaker. I have a radio show, and I'm a global brand ambassador, and of course an artist. So all of these come under Omnia Entertainment. But I am a celebrity ambassador for Safe Passage, which is an organization to help women that have suffered domestic violence abuse. And then I'm also an ambassador for Face Forward, which is also an incredible organization. Same thing, domestic abuse and violence, not just for women, but also men and children, because they also can be victims of such abuse.
True.
All around the world.
Right.
And I've started a foundation many years ago during a trip to Cambodia and Thailand, because I was just touched by beautiful children there, and I didn't realize how many orphans and sort of amputees and just kids who have lost a limb in especially Cambodia, because they had all the landmine situation. So when you go to these beautiful countries, it's so wonderful, but you see these kids, they have a beautiful smile on their face, but their lives have been marred with so much pain and tragedy. And I met groups and groups of orphans, and visited a lot of orphanages actually, and they were so sweet. They really gave, they kind of held on to me and stuff. But I thought, geez, if I could ever start a foundation to help anyone, it would be the helpless children that can't help themselves. So I
Right.
started that a long time ago, and I've supported other charities and stuff. And I'm also very spiritual, of course, interested in various spiritual and philosophical causes. And by the way, I'm proud to say that I'm a recently certified Dharma ambassador. And
Cool,
Dharma
congratulations.
ambassador is someone who is certified to speak on a public platform about Eastern philosophy and Eastern faith and traditions. You know, it's my lineage. I come from India, of course, which is, I would say, the cradle of spirituality in the world, because all the Indic faiths like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism came out of India, and they came out of the same fundamental philosophy of Sanatana Dharma. So I'm very knowledgeable in this area, and I already have written and spoken on this topic all around the world. But you know, I'm certified to do so now, and I hope that this year I'll be doing a lot more of that, you know, hopefully speaking all around the world. So speaking of it, I must say that I have a lot of international trips coming up, so I just wanted to share some of them with you.
Well, before we talk
yeah.
about the future, let's
Yes.
touch
All right,
on the
fine.
past, because
You can lead, yes.
yeah, you were in Dubai quite a bit. You were
Yes.
also in Vietnam.
I'll be going back to Vietnam in November. I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So give us some insight into what you did there and what you learned from your.
Oh, wonderful. Vietnam was special. My first time there. So I was invited by a pretty prestigious think tank, global think tank, global summit called Horasis.
Okay.
And Horasis is run by the former director of the World Economic Forum in Davos. And so he now runs Horasis. It's very similar to Davos, but it focuses on emerging markets rather than markets that have already reached there and are almost plateauing or declining, I would say. So this group, this think tank, meets 5 or 6 times a year in very exotic locations all around the world, and you've got a group of between 500 and 1,000 CEOs, top CEOs from
Wow.
everywhere coming and meeting, and we have talks, we have panels. It's a talk shop. We talk about urgent matters that are affecting the world at large. We have global leaders, presidents, heads of states, gurus, you know, spiritual leaders. And I was on a panel. I was asked to speak on cultural diversity, religion, language. And I was on the panel with some famous spiritual gurus from India. I was with the Swami, you know, a monk, and incredible people from everywhere. And the moderator was a very famous professor of philosophy from New York. So I spoke my mind. I'm, you know, known to be very outspoken, and you know, got a lot of love, made a lot of friends, and got invited to speak in many more places after that, actually. But they've invited me again to speak in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, and
Cool.
I really loved Ho Chi Minh. The food was phenomenal, and so I'm very excited to go back there in November. And I don't know what I shall be speaking about, but I'm sure it'll be a very timely and fascinating conversation.
Cool. Now, didn't you do some work, and that was fascinating, by the way. Congratulations for that. I think I read somewhere that you had done something in Russia for MTV.
Oh my God, yes, this was in 2012. I was actually asked to be the English host, the official host for the Moscow International Film Festival.
So you speak Russian?
You know what, I did prepare a little bit of Russian for that talk, because although I hosted in English, at the end of my event, I was there for a week. I had the time of my life. I was very touched by the people and by the city. But I just thought that I want to show them my love. And I had prepared a wonderful speech in Russian. And I actually gave that talk in Russian. It was a speech at the end of the event. And the whole auditorium went berserk. They went ballistic. And MTV Russia had actually, they were the media outlet for that, one of the media outlets for that event. So they covered me. And oh my God, they actually, I was on national I was in all the national news channels because they interviewed me and they showed my footage and everything. And again, I became another star there. So it was China first, and then I had my fame in Russia, and then in Australia I had won several beauty pageants. So I was in all the newspapers there as well for winning the titles and being an international and all that. So I'm kind of famous in different countries for completely different things.
That's cool.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Very diversified.
Yeah.
Now, was Putin there when you were there?
I believe he was a leader. I think he was a leader in 2012. I, of course, didn't meet. I would love, honored. Look, I'm very diplomatic, and having worked in sort of, I'm very familiar with geopolitics, and I love to be a real diplomat one day in terms of serious, UN level or even beyond. And I am of the opinion that you take meetings with everyone, you speak to everyone, even the enemy or your adversary. So people who say, no, I don't want to have a conversation with this leader or that leader, I think they're selling themselves short, because it's only through conversation that anything can even happen.
Right.
So I would love to have my dream is to interview all these great leaders one day, all sitting together on a panel. I think I could do a great job.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, we kind of touched on vaguely your titles, but now your main title is Miss Australia.
Miss India International.
I always mix it up. For some reason I keep saying Miss Australia International
Well,
India.
I also won Miss India Australia and Miss India Portugal I won, and then I competed in a bunch of other ones too. And I was also Miss Pinup in Australia a long time ago.
Okay. So the one that I keep mixing up is Miss India International?
Yes.
Okay. But now I think I do have a little bit of retaining info, because there was that in Australia. Did you say Australia, India?
Miss India Australia, yeah. That
Yeah,
was several years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So if it was a multiple choice, I might have gotten that right.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
They're just a means to an end for me. They're just another platform where some other doors can open. And quite frankly, I don't think that they have been the platforms that have really given me the real opportunities in my life. I think for some people it may have, in my case, no, because I think I was meant to do far bigger things, and I was going to achieve a lot more on many other levels. So, winning a pageant didn't really do all that.
No. Well, I think all the acting that you have is, gotten you into the mainstream, and gotten you into a situation where you can actually help people, which is what apparently you like to do.
Yeah, because my mission is to really not just inspire and empower people, but really be a global leader, in that way. Be a role model, be an ambassador, and I'm moving into international relations and diplomacy.
Right. But now,
see where that takes me.
But I still, last time I saw you was on a Heineken commercial.
Yes.
And then you did
I did a bunch of commercials recently. HP.
Okay.
I did several for Heineken and Dos Equis.
Discovery or no?
Pepsi, Apple, Coke. Yeah.
Wasn't it when
Even
you did
McDonald's,
for?
I think, yeah.
Wasn't it like a historical? What's the historical?
National Geographic.
Right. What did you do?
I was on a very popular show on National Geographic.
What did you do?
It was actually a show that was debunking mediums and
Wish we could debunk this debunker.
yeah, mediums and psychics and all that. It's funny, I do think that some people have a gift, but I think most people just are very good readers. They read their clients very well. And this show kind of debunked how anyone can just throw generic questions to the client and make them believe that they're reading their mind, kind of thing. It was very fascinating. But I was a part of that. It was like a mini documentary almost. A lot of fun.
Very cool. Now, on that note, before we go further, have you ever had any supernatural or spooky type of occurrences in your life?
It's interesting. I do think that there are disembodied spirits out there. I do think that there are spirits in limbo. They're like hanging around. There's a lot of beings, I believe, they're on a different frequency, but they're here on the earth with us. We just can't see them. Some people can. They are also on a different frequency. I do believe in, extraterrestrials, interterrestrials, and all of this phenomena. And I mean, one has to keep an open mind. So that being said, I have had a lot of divine experiences in my life. So I felt the presence of the divine and the blessings of the angels and universal consciousness. So like I felt that I was being heard, I was being listened to. There was a time once where, there have been a few points in my life where I was lying down, my eyes were closed, but I felt a gentle nudge.
Oh.
When I opened my eyes, there was no one there, but it was just something telling me that I'm okay. So I've had several of those experiences, but haunted house experiences with spirits and ghosts, no, thankfully no, because I could see how that could be very traumatic for people.
Now, I wanted to touch on something that I've heard you say quite a bit, and you say that you expect miracles and they happen.
Yes.
Now, you always, every time I'm around, you always say, I'm going to manifest
Yes.
this and that.
I'm a manifesting machine.
And it tends to happen when you say that. So, what exactly, for people that are watching, they're like, damn, I need to manifest a new job. I need to manifest a new boyfriend, a new wife, a new money
Everything,
changing,
Sure.
deal with my children, deal with my...
Yeah.
How would you tell them that they should go in this direction?
There's a few steps to a manifestation. I think the first one is believing that you deserve it. Because a lot of people, they visualize, they meditate, they pray, they long for things, but they don't actually believe that they can get it, and they don't believe that they're worth it. So the first step is belief, right? And then you actually have to allow it to happen. You have to allow it into your life. I think the universe is always trying to give us things, and most people are their own worst enemy. They're in the way, and they somehow actually block wonderful things from happening to themselves.
Interesting.
Because they're too busy running around chasing their tail. So believe that you're worth it, know what you want, and then allow it to happen. Receive it, and then the third step is give thanks. Give thanks for what you have, and give thanks for what you're about to receive, and give thanks for what you've just received. Because gratitude is attitude and action. It's the most powerful energy is when you have true gratitude.
Cool.
Because the universe just lights up, and it's like more is coming to you because you honor what you have.
Cool.
So I think people don't do any of these steps sometimes, or they miss out on a few of them.
I
They
believe
just hope
you.
that the red Ferrari is going to land from the sky into their lap. I mean, it can. Believe me, it can. And it has happened to people. But they had these steps of believing, knowing what they want, allowing it, being specific, being grateful, having humility. And also, I think a big principle that people really forget is when manifestation is concerned is karmic grace. Now, karma is a term. It's a Hindu term. It's a Sanskrit word. It means. It doesn't mean a law of, the universe, like what you get, what you sow is what you reap. Karma literally means work and action. So in Hinduism, karma is a huge concept. The fundamental principle of Hinduism is karma. Everything is karma, and your whole lifetime is karmic. You're back in this lifetime in the way that you are with whatever you've inherited, because you're here to learn the highest lessons, and things will happen in the best way. So you really grow and learn the most. But one principle within karma is karmic grace, and this explains why there are billionaires who are bad people, and you think, why is that person so rich and successful? And we all know so many good people who are broke and suffering, because they are, I think, things that are beyond the human eye. It's, what's their soul's journey? Where have they been? Where are they going? What this pit stop of this incarnation, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? So karmic grace is something that supersedes all of these principles of manifestation, I think, because essentially if something is meant for you, it's going to come. And if something is not meant for you, it's either never going to come, or it's going to be so challenging to get it, but by the time you do get it, you will constantly exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So karmic grace explains a lot in life. So it also kind of makes you realize that, hey, you're not in the driver's seat, you can just do your best. But I think there's a divine play that's going on, which is Leela, the divine play, and you're playing your part. All you can do is play your part the best that you can and just be love and light.
Mm-hmm. We touched on something earlier. We're going to make a movie together.
Yes,
But
I'm so excited.
me too. And you said that you wanted to talk about politics, but I'm like, maybe we shouldn't go too far.
Yes.
Because, we have to leave something for the movie.
That's
you know what I mean?
true, that's true. And also, look, I think we are just living in an environment where freedom of speech, freedom of expression is really being attacked.
Mhm.
And I think we're on the verge of potentially losing this. I'm seeing it already in campuses and, with kids all around the world. Kids are, they're forced to, or they're taught to think a certain way. And they're not taught to have diversity of opinion, and this is very scary. Because if you can't be safe in a college campus, the big bad world out there is going to eat you and spit you right back.
Now, what about, how do you feel about the sudden, well, it's not real sudden, but it seems like recently little kids have gone from just being bullied to killing themselves. I don't think that was like that previously.
Suicide is such a big problem all around the world, and I think the juvenile suicide is really
It's the
scary
worst.
because adults, they do sometimes share with people, or at least they can speak to another human being about the problems. Kids cannot voice it,
Mhm.
right? So they don't even tell their parents what's up with them. And they're being bullied at school or whatever, they don't tell the teachers.
Mhm.
They're ashamed. They don't tell their parents. They don't tell their friends. And when you're an adult, I think you learn to cope. You have self-empathy. You can somehow transmute it.
Mhm.
You kind of throw yourself into your work or whatever. But as a kid, you don't have that luxury. You have to face your fear every waking moment, right?
Mhm.
So it's very sad, and the sad thing is that it's not just happening in some developing country or some sub-Saharan African city. It's actually happening in the richest and the most prosperous and developing countries in the world. So that's something very alarming.
And very, 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 very sad. I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago, and maybe my view is kind of dark, but they said, well, how do these kids even know about suicide, and how do they know about blah, blah, blah? So I was like, I hate to say it, but it's the parents.
Yes,
It's got to be the parents.
that's right. Not enough good upbringing. And also the internet is at everyone's disposal, and it really should be a tool. But yes, it is a tool, but you can learn how to build a bomb online.
Yeah.
So a tool for what?
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. Now, I'd like to just go back just a little bit to your acting, because that's how we met.
Yes.
I used to do a show in Hollywood, and in fact, you were the one that opened my eyes to something. I don't know if you recall that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring it up on the air, but someone was trying to play hide and seek with me, and then you called them and said, "Excuse me," blah 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 blah, and that turned the whole tables on
Oh, I
everything.
like that. Yes.
Do you recall what that was?
This was many years ago, right?
Yeah. If you don't recall, I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Tell me later.
But it was pretty wild. But basically, someone got their hands caught in the cookie jar, and you showed me, so they couldn't get the cookie out of the jar.
I like that.
And then next thing I know, there were more cookies.
Uh-oh.
But you never did get on that show, but you helped me with the new one, and this is going to be on that one as well. Now let's get back into, because I know your heart and soul is into ambassadorship.
Yes.
But your talents, you've acted, you're still acting.
Yes.
What kind of role are you looking to really sink your pearly whites into?
Oh, that's a good question. Look, after so many years in this business, now I'm actually very open and grateful for whatever comes my way. I think 10 years ago I was like, no, I want to be in the Bond movie or this or that. Now I'm like, hey, work is work, and work gets more work, and there's integrity and respect in every role. So I think my ideology has changed as well. I'm open, I would like to play a spy or espionage or political satire, political drama would be fun. Geopolitical would be good, maybe a diplomat. Because I could do that
Could you see yourself behind the scenes directing, producing?
Not directing, but I'm in the process of developing my own TV show, and I'd be a producer, I'd be the creator, and I'd be the host. So that I see myself.
Okay. Can you ever see yourself going back to banking, IT?
No, definitely not. And I still have dear friends who do that, and we still keep in touch. And some of them have moved on to other interesting things. But that was a phase in my life. It taught me a lot. It taught me discipline, professionalism, integrity, honesty. A lot of qualities that you don't find here in Hollywood. You know, you don't find them among this sort of fraternity. Because a lot of people who work in Hollywood don't have degrees. They have not worked in other jobs. A lot of them may not even know how the world really is out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're so consumed in this little bubble, which is not reality, by the way. It's quite an illusion.
Right, right.
I can go in and out of the illusion, but some of them cannot get out of it. So I am very grateful for my phase in private sector. It taught me a lot, and ultimately it is show business is a business. And you can't forget about that.
Mm-hmm. How do you, well, I was going to ask a question. Let me see the best way to ask this question. Now, you appear to be a person who's come from a family of intellectual people,
Yes.
not people that are just going to up and just
Very, very
follow
smart
a dream.
and very educated people, yes.
How have they, when you first started, how did they look upon it? And now that you've had success, how do
That's
they look at
interesting.
it?
I'm the luckiest person in the world because my parents are extremely loving, supporting, caring. They've always been. And when I first told them, I remember telling my mother, well, she knew that I was very unhappy with what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did share with her, I think she just lit up. And she said, you want to do that? You want to go to New York and pursue this? Yeah, my love, my support is you have my blessings, you know. I'm sure she was heartbroken in the sense that I would be going away from her,
Mm-hmm.
but she was never a naysayer. She never persuaded me to think otherwise. So they let me free. They loved me unconditionally. But now, so many years later, after the China thing, oh my God, after when they saw all of, and that was the same year that I had moved,
Wow.
right? So within 6 months, suddenly I was this
It was like,
overnight
boom.
sensation. They were blown away. Oh my God, I remember my father to this day still has newspaper clippings of me.
Daddy's little girl?
He still shows them around, and I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm very proud. I'm touched that now they're so proud of me. Now they have a different mindset. They actually want me to go all the way because they know that I've sacrificed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they think, you know what?
I'm here with Miss Australia International in Sephora in the Grove. How's it going, Miss Preity Uupala?
Very good, thank you.
She's in her natural habitat, but as we're going to talk about later, her natural habitat tends to be in politics, tends to be in entertainment, tends to be all over the world. She's in the sky, she's on ships on the ocean, and she's in great demand. And there's a movie coming out, which she and I are collaborating on, to give you a much deeper probe into what makes Preity tick. Let's check her out in the mirror here. Are we going for the smoke look?
Yeah.
As you can see, there's many women in here. I have a feeling she's the prettiest in here, though. What do you think? Let's get a close-up. But I'll let her get back to her magic. Did you want to give a shout out to Sephora before we go? There you have it. You good?
Maybe some, yeah, I think
Like that. No, don't touch it. Yeah, that's cool. Preity is now sucking up the air and the atmosphere and the solar energy. That's a cool shot. From her drumsticks down to her sparkling shoes.
I like the when you say drumsticks, you're so funny.
Drumstick
Getting a real
down.
tan here.
Yeah. Like that. No, don't touch it. Yeah, that's cool. Preity is now sucking up the air and the atmosphere and the solar energy. That's a cool shot. From her drumsticks down to her sparkling shoes.
I like the when you say drumsticks, you're so funny.
Drumstick
Getting a real
down.
tan here.
Yeah.
The way you can, you know, if anyone can do it, you can. I'm very lucky. I have an amazing family. They're very loving, you know.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother that it's actually his birthday today.
Oh,
So
wish him happy
I
birthday.
wished him happy birthday. He's very happy. He's excited. He's in Sydney, Australia. He's having a ball.
What's his name?
Pranay.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Panay.
birthday, Pranay. No, he's awesome. I love him. So yeah, I mean, life is great.
Yeah. I think you may have told me this. I'm not sure. You've done Bollywood previously?
I
Right?
have done a couple of Bollywood movies and also some that were shot in Australia. Small ones. You know, not just Hindi but other languages too.
How many
I'm not
languages?
crazy. I speak 5 languages, but I'm not, you know, crazy about that Bollywood type of filmmaking or acting or anything like that. It's too fantasy based for me. I'm a realist.
Okay.
And I'm very deep and philosophical about life.
Did you like the Slumlord?
It was okay. I don't think it painted a great picture about India. I think India is so much more than that. And you can have a movie about a very rich side of India or a very spiritual side of India. But I like the book. I like the writing was very good. Yeah.
We had a good speech or talk earlier concerning the same thing you're talking about now, about the money situation in India.
Oh yeah, demonetization. You know, it's within several years, India is going to be maybe the first country to truly be digital in terms of on so many levels. They already have the largest biometric ID system in the world. I believe something like 500,000 people. Sorry, 500 million people are on a biometric system. It's the largest in the world.
Now, to us who
500
are
million is a huge.
to the layman, what does that really mean?
So it's every citizen of India has a card. It's like a bank card, but it's got a barcode and all that. But it's their ID, who they are, their age, their everything about them, you know. But every citizen has one. So you've got, I think, 500 million people that have signed up for this thing, and you can pay through that card. You can connect your bank card to that card, and you can then use that card to pay for things. And people, I mean, we're finding mothers in little villages using their card to pay for milk and stuff. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing. So within a few years, I think the whole country is just going to be digital. It's going to be paperless, moneyless. I mean, it's cashless, I guess.
Right.
And they're going to be using this and other electronic payments. There is also like PayPal and all that. We have our version of it, and again, it's like 600, 700, 800 million people are on it. You know, that use it. But so India's got some great things going for it. In several years, it's going to be very digital, and they're going to get rid of every single car in India is going to be electric or something like that. So huge.
Yeah.
So I mean, for a country with that size and the steps that they're taking to, you know, really contribute, I would say, towards climate change in a positive way and towards policy and so on, I think it's huge.
Because I was telling you that it scares me. It makes me think, oh man, they could just
Or hack into. I think some of them
just
are
take
pretty,
your stuff and
I
make
think
you
that
null
the
and
security is
void.
very, very tight. And hey, if you don't
You
have
gotta
anything
admit,
in the card,
You gotta
maybe-
admit, it'd be a good horror story
Well,
though.
what's someone gonna steal? But I mean, I
be
suppose
a
if you
good
have billions,
sci-fi.
yeah, you might want to be careful. But I'm sure if you have billions, then you have extra security, and perhaps a billionaire won't even use that system.
On that note, since you're IT
Yes.
and you do have that incredible brain, and you would understand this more than I do, but it's along the same lines as that. What's your thought about Bitcoin and blockchain and all that stuff?
Well, this is a very good question. I think that blockchain is the way of the future. This much I know for sure. I've done a ton of research into it.
Why do you think I was
It is the technology that is going to take us into the future. Now, Bitcoin is a particular cryptocurrency. It's the first of its kind. So it was a smart idea to get in the very beginning, and it did go from 0 to 20,000, and then it, I think, came down to 8, and I don't know where it's at now. I'm not sure if it's going to go back to 20 and exceed it. Perhaps not. All I know is that the blockchain technology is the way of the future, which means that there will be a lot of these little cryptocurrencies, and now they're backed by gold, which makes it very stable. I think each country is going to have its own coin backed by gold, and it's going to be a part of the general ledger and all that. Legal tender in Japan, I think it's already the case. So I am an investor in Bitcoin. I did get in almost a year and a half ago.
How's it working?
I'm a miner though. I'm a member of a mining club. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, I have nothing to lose because we get paid with the billions of transactions, the trillions of transactions that happen, and it's a pool. You pool into this club and you get your dividends, so it's much more reliable and stable, and you don't really have to do anything other than the initial investment. Yeah.
Now, I recently heard something about this movie company. Doesn't blockchain?
Yeah, there is. It's
Motevilla
called
or something?
Windor, or yeah, it's a Chinese. I actually
Motevilla?
know the owner, and it's a film producing financing company that you can finance with the Bitcoin blockchain and stuff. I think it's a very novel idea, and I think we're going to see more of that. But in the future, I think movies are going to be funded with the Bitcoin cash.
So you think the insurance guys are going to be pushed out of the
No, I
playing
think
field?
insurance people will be forced to adapt, and they might come up with
Something different, huh?
crypto insurance products.
I can't help but just think this would be a great freaking sci-fi
Yeah.
horror freaking thing.
Movie maybe of some Bitcoin gone wrong.
Gone wrong, gone crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, to
anarchy
me,
and stuff. Yeah.
this would be the perfect thing.
Like this is a disaster waiting to happen, right?
Well, if you go online, there are people that are saying this is the beginning of the Antichrist.
Yeah,
This is the mark.
yeah, it's the end.
If nothing else, you could
Maybe it'll just be a crypto crash, Yeah.
or you could get a bunch of people to get into that movie seat and eat a bunch of popcorn and make a zillion out of it.
That's true.
So now, with all that being said, I just want to let you know that I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and now we've become big friends,
We've become very good friends. Yes.
and we've eaten decadent chocolate
Yes,
together.
we have.
And we've eaten Jamaican shrimp.
And we had wonderful lunch sessions at Marie Callender's.
God bless their soul, right?
Yes.
May they rest in peace. So now, is there anything that we've left out that we haven't spoken
Yes,
about?
just want to end with some of my upcoming trips because I'm excited. Next month I'll be going to the Cannes Film Festival, so I'll have my European trip, hopefully going to Italy and Portugal, maybe Ireland. I want to mix some other countries into it. In November, December, I'll be going to Vietnam for my talk. I do want to go back to India, and if I ever go to India, I always go through Dubai, so I think that might be happening at some point as well. I just imagine that I'll be speaking a lot, and I think some of these trips are still being manifested as I speak. So yeah, there's going to be lots of travel coming up. I'm going to Vegas a few times for various beauty conventions.
How are you received when you go back home to India? Well, when I say back home is Australia.
Well, back home is Australia, which I don't go very much. Although I'm Indian, India is very foreign to me in many ways, but I know a lot of people now. I'd love to get in politically with India as well. So perhaps my next trip will be more of a political one. You know, I should really join a think tank, I think, for foreign policy diplomacy, and because I know people in that, and I'm pretty knowledgeable and stuff, and I'm very passionate and interested in this. So yeah, and then I'll go to Napa Valley, I'll go to San Francisco for a speaker's workshop and stuff. So there's lots of trips happening.
Could you ever see yourself, say down the road, like 40, 50 years old, maybe running for office?
Well, I don't think I have to wait till 40, 50. I think it can be younger than that. But well,
Because you're so like entrenched in
no,
entertainment.
I never if I told I was speaking to my mother the other day, and I asked her, you know, I was telling her about politics, and I wrote this wonderful article on the upcoming Indian elections, which is the biggest democratic exercise in the world. It's a billion people voting. Just imagine, almost 900 million plus voting. Because in India, they take their democracy very seriously. They're very proud of it. It's a very rich democracy. It's a true democracy. And also, not only is it the largest secular country in the world, it's actually the only secular country in the world by the real definition of the word secularism, which is beyond just having the right to practice whatever religion. It actually treats every religion equally. So although we have an 83% majority Hinduism in India, Hindus would not be considered majority in that sense of the word. Legally, they don't have any advantage. You know, I mean, it sucks for the Hindus, but actually minorities get propped up. But it's secularism, it's secular in that way. But so this election is huge. You know, I wrote a great article on how the future of the result of this election does affect the world at large, because such a huge country, it's very strong. It's the third largest economy in the world. You know, fifth largest in terms of GDP and third largest in terms of PPP. That's huge. You know, and whatever happens to it, it does affect the world at large. And it's not only a AI and technology leader of the world, but it's also the spiritual leader of the world. So I think the world has a lot to gain by looking to India and paying attention. And I just hope that they have fair elections, which they do, they usually do. And I hope that whoever wins with a huge mandate, because I think the country deserves it. They have very strong leadership now. A lot has been done. I think India is shining on the global stage. We have a leader who is, Facebook just announced that he is the most popular world leader in the world. He beat Trump by twice. He's got twice as many likes than Trump. I mean, that is just enormous to think about, you know. And so this is Prime Minister Modi of India, and he shows no signs of slowing down. I do believe he's going to win, and I think his next term is going to be more glorious than the first, and I think it's going to, a lot more is going to be done. So I'm excited for India. You know, I'm very proud to be Indian.
What about him hits you so strongly and gives you that type of faith?
So what's most inspirational about Prime Minister Modi is that people don't know a few things about him. Number one, they don't know where he came from. He was, just imagine this, he grew up in a very poor family. I believe it was, I think his mother predominantly raised him, and from a little town in India. His job growing up was, he used to sell tea in a small train station in a small city in a state in India. So this person was, by all accounts, a nobody. And for him today to be the leader of the free world in many ways, you know, the most popular global leader on social media, from a tea seller in a little train station in India, I think that's ridiculous. I mean, that's the story of India, by the way. It's the story of the underdog. It's the story of magic and impossibilities. And all you need is belief, conviction, and you need integrity. You need a pure heart. And he toiled for his countries for all of his age is almost 70. And so I think most inspirational is where he came from nowhere to the heights of success.
Yeah.
But the other point that people don't know is when he was 18, he actually was a renunciate. He gave up everything. He went to the Himalayas, went to an ashram, found a guru, and he became a yogi, and he wanted to become a celibate monk.
He was a
wanted to-
monk?
Yeah, he was training to just become a monk forever.
Wow.
And there the seers and the psychics actually looked at him and they thought, this is a special soul. He's going to be the leader of the free world. I'm sorry, but you can't be in the ashram.
He is the golden child.
He's a golden child. He's a real golden child. So they actually sent him back.
Really?
He was sent back. He said, you cannot be in the ashram. You're supposed to do, your dharma in life is to be a global leader. So
Dharma is
don't waste your time in the
mission.
ashram. The ashram doesn't need you. The world needs you. So he was sent back, and he slowly got into very grassroots level of politics and religion, spirituality, and all that. And through that, he came up, and he eventually became the chief minister of his state, Gujarat. And in about 12 years, he turned that state from a very bad situation to possibly the most developed and the #1 state in India on many levels. And his whole campaign pitch was, whatever I did for Gujarat, my state, I can do that for the country. And I think to a lot of people, he hasn't disappointed. There is, love him or hate him, he's really a man of enigma. But there's hundreds of billions of people that swear by him. And even, you know, I go all around the world. You know, I've been to almost 100 countries, and wherever I go, I must say, people look at me, they always say namaste, you're Indian, we love India, and then they say, you have a great leader, we love Modi. And this is like, I mean, you wouldn't eat in Dubai, in places that you just wouldn't expect it. So the point is that the world looks at him as a leader.
Oh, cool.
There are always going to be naysayers, there's nexuses of hate, there's a lot of fake news, falsities. People have had smear campaigns on him for many, many years, to be honest. Tried to topple him, but they didn't succeed. So it'll be interesting to see the future of India.
Very cool. I want to also ask you about your latest article. Want
Yes.
people to be able to see that.
Yeah, you can look. It was written in the Observer, so you can check it out. And also, if you just go to my Facebook page, I've posted it there. You could also just Google Preity Uupala, the Observer, or Preity Uupala Indian elections article, and it'll come up. I heard it's getting thousands, tens of thousands of hits, and traveling globally. I think it's getting viral. A lot of people are reading it. So,
Cool. Congratulations.
it's pretty
too.
hard hitting, but so please contact me. I'm on Twitter. It's Preity Uupala with 2 U's.
Preity.
Preity Uupala. But on Facebook, it's just 1 U, so it's Upala. I have my own YouTube channel. Please join. I have many videos, many subscribers.
You have a podcast?
I have my own podcast called The Eternal Hour. I'll be putting more episodes up there. I'm writing a book. I'm hopefully going on a book tour soon, like speaking tour. Lots coming. Very, very excited.
Now, I'm sure women want to know, what do you do to keep looking so beautiful?
Oh, okay. Well,
There are
you
no
know,
wrinkles,
spiritual
there's no
radiance, yeah,
bags,
I
there
look
never
probably
are.
10, 15 years younger than my real age. But, you know, the real beauty
You've